I'm all three of them. I can't do one without the other. It's I paint what I can't talk about and I can't explain in words. My other ideas that are better expressed by other people, I let them talk. As a talk show host, I invite them to come and speak when they're a little bit more clear. I celebrate other people. I enjoy the idea of having a vibrant world around me. The art world, the gallery offers me that. A lot of free thinking, abstract thinking. I grew up without being able to say who I was, without being able to express who I am out of fear. Fear of getting hurt. I was 13, 14 when I came out. So I had to keep quiet about a lot of things. And the only way that I found that I was able to express myself was through my work. And I have found other people that also are either poets, writers, movers and shakers, that I'd love to give that opportunity that was given to me to speak. So I give them the exhibitions, I give them the platform, the venue, and the things that are still missing, I end up having to play politics and still be a genuine activist and advocate. My experience and my role in the activist world is more advocacy than anything else. It's when the advocacy doesn't work and there's too many of us that are focused on a specific thing that needs to be changed. Whether we want to be treated the same as other people, we want the same access as other people. In my case, we wanted the same right to live and the right to health care. And that's where it came from the AIDS pandemic, that we were getting redlined. That meant that we weren't getting the insurance payments because of our zip codes, because we lived in predominantly gay zip codes in gay neighborhoods. And the insurance companies started cutting the payments or not approving the claims. And we got tired of advocating to our congressmen, to our mayors, to our hospitals. So then the next step has to come, and it is activism. And that includes the marches, the protests, the signs. And if that doesn't work, we progress into civil disobedience. We were not asking for anything that other people were not getting at the same time. Even so much as right now, when we ask for people to be stewards of the environment, we advocate for climate remediation, we petition people, we make slogans, we march, we protest to save our trees, to save our waters. And in such cases, some people have taken to civil disobedience also, to make sure that those issues come to light. And it's a natural American way of going about change when you don't have lobby groups, when you don't have a lot of money, and the changes are affecting only a very small minority group in the country, whether it's gay, whether it's black, whether it's Hispanic, whether it's poor, whether they're farmers, whether they're miners. And I think that that's, everybody looks inside and they approach things first very civilly, and then they look for ways to get it done, and when too many doors shut, they protest. I ended up as a delegate because I'm growing old and I have to work within the system. How I said, I've been a big advocate, activist, and participant. I'm a real believer in civil disobedience, boots on the ground kind of person, and I am not going to run for office. That's not where my interest lies. It is in making change. And one of the things that I have been doing, now that I'm all grown up, and I started growing up last year at 57, I think it's to work within the system. There are things that can be accomplished amicably. One of the things is to assure ourselves of the change in the dynamic of the current politics, and to make sure that basically that we elect a president that is a leader, that puts us on a level of respect internationally that we have been on in the past, and that means to support Biden. And I was very much involved representing the Hispanic community as a Democrat for Hispanic rights, to get the attention of Hispanic issues locally. And I became a member of the chapter. I became vice president of the chapter. I am currently the president of the chapter. And I went to the state convention and I was like, I am going to make sure that at least one vote is for Biden. And I get to go to Milwaukee this year and stand for the constituency that wants me to vote for Biden and stand for them. Hispanics will be deciding the 2020 elections, the presidential elections, more so than down ballot, I think. The uptick in pressures against the Hispanic community have been so grave in the last 4 years under Trump. While many of the conservative Hispanics that vote may tend to stay with Trump only because of their economic standings, I think that the downturn in the economy will influence their vote also. But the rest of the Hispanic community throughout the country has ties with the immigrant community and has strong ties with the immigrant community. And they have been left with a lot of pain. And I think that a lot of the people that would have otherwise not voted have seen the consequence of not voting, that could vote. So I think we will see a lot more participation from the Hispanic community. It's been one of the hardest damaged communities in the last 4 years. And I think that you could expect a lot more participation by the work that I've done, trying to speak and reach out to the community. Many of them said, I never thought it was important until I see the condition in which we find ourselves in. And many of them are not working And economically, they're being trampled on now, which is not a good thing for Trump, because many people are unemployed also. So the separation of children, the slandering of people, and now not sticking up for the unemployed. Many of the unemployed will rely on jobs that are going to be given to private prisons because of contracts that he has and the support that he has. So even the most menial jobs will go to support his interests within the private prison system, which is what the whole immigration thing was about. It was to uplift the private prisons and give them the commodity that the private prisons use, which is prisoners. That question is like so up in the air now. I know that Trump was counting on a booming economy that affected everybody, not just Latinos, not just the African American community. He was hoping that his base would be thriving in this economy. And there's a very small sector that is actually thriving in this economy. Even if they open the economy these days and people start bouncing back, the fear of the instability of a second wave of the COVID pandemic is going to have a very big impact on how he's perceived, and they will hold him responsible for the downturn of the economy. People realize that opening up the economy too fast is basically heading towards a crash. It's a Band-Aid with the expectations of being able to congregate. And for right now, it's a lot of fun to hold flotillas and to have rallies again. But the science is there, the numbers are there is no vaccine. So I would hope not. But if a second wave and a second quarantine is coming, it will be coming in late October, early November. And that will affect the elections. For him, it will be devastating. All undocumented, that's kind of like a Republican talking point. I don't think that being human and caring for anyone in this country who's working for you and who's a legal resident, whether they are a legal resident but not a citizen, should be denied medicine. We have a lot of resident aliens in this country. We have a lot of documented people. We have a lot of people in process that are undocumented. By all means, we're not going to perpetuate the conditions that are currently in place, where people are not being given the adequate medical attention while they're being in detention centers because they're undocumented, and funding has been shut down or closed or limited in certain areas to these populations. Once they're in our country and they're in our care, whether they're in process of getting their documents, whether they're in detention, temporary detention, they should be afforded the dignity of health care if they become sick. And I think that we have become so polarized on that conversation that we forget that these are human beings, and we cannot allow little girls to, like what made the news, that a lot of little girls weren't even given the necessary sanitary equipment as they became menstrual while they were incarcerated, because many of the young ladies matured while in incarceration, and they weren't given medical attention that they needed, nor the education, because their parents had been separated. And that was the current concept of not allowing any medical attention to undocumented kids. And I think that will change. And I think that needs to change, and I think we need to go back to a little bit more of a humanitarian approach to healthcare, whether the people are documented or not. And I think that is something that is not going to be an easy fix, but definitely it cannot stay polarized. If Trump is reelected again, which I don't believe he will, and let alone with any support from the LGBT community, except for a handful, a very small minority of LGBT that belong to a sect called Log Cabin Republicans, but the broader political LGBT community is reliving a lot of the horrors that we went through in the 80s, when people were discriminated against and left to die without any care. The slandering and the allowance of the permission that's been given to our trans community is very important to everyone. Only in South Florida there have been a number of murders that have come out, and still we bring their name up and we hurt because they've passed. And the gay community tends never to forget. Every word that this president has uttered, how he's downplayed it, the reversals of a lot of our protections that were purposely done for absolutely no reason than because the president was playing games to undo anything and everything that Obama tried to do. That petty fight has affected many of the lives of our community. And I don't think that we'll support someone who doesn't have any regard for the fallout of his bickering and bandstanding on political issues with whether it be Obama, whether it be Elizabeth Warren. To make a point, he will allow people to die and get hurt. We've seen that at the rallies. While he's pandering to his base, people get hurt, people get killed, and laws have been changed to allow to perpetuate bias, racism, separatism, and hate crimes. And I don't think that we forget when we go to the polls. That motivates us more to go vote. Everything is at stake in 2020. Everything that has changed will continue to change, and it hasn't changed for the better. Our rights are being eroded one bit at a time. Our teachers have been left without any payroll. Our education system has suffered. The arts have suffered. Our veterans have suffered. The economy has suffered. Healthcare has suffered. All to feed the 1%. even the market will suffer, continue to suffer as it gets consolidated into fewer and fewer hands. And I think conservatives and liberals, while many you would believe are polarized, there's a huge sector of even the Republican community that is behind getting rid of Trump, because everything, all of our liberties, all of our freedoms, and every single one of our voices is in jeopardy based on a narcissistic whim. There is no real calculated vision whatsoever. If it were another Republican president, I don't think there would be so much in the balance to have Republicans turning on Republicans like they are now. So there's a lot in stake, if not everything is at stake.
Thank you.